It is still reverberating in the South. What happened earlier this evening as Mark Sears and Alabama upset number 1 Auburn on a last-second overtime shot. A wild rematch. Auburn had won the game in Tuscaloosa. Alabama pays them back to avoid a 3-game losing streak to end the regular season. Both teams had chances to win at the end of regulation and botched it. Auburn had a tying 3, Tyler, by Janai Broome, the big man, who's a Player of the Year candidate, the Naismith and Wooden Award Player of the Year candidate, hit the big 3 to tie it, but then Sears won the game. Alabama wins. I know they're headed to the SEC tournament, but this was some great drama. This was some wild theater earlier this afternoon. Any thoughts here on Alabama getting that win and just how tough the SEC has been?
Big win for Bama. And to think, too, that Mark Sears, he kind of had a quiet day up until he had 7 points before he hit that game winner in overtime. And I was listening to Jimmy Dykes during the broadcast talk about that. Hey, if Alabama wins this game and has a strong finish to the year with the SEC tournament, they might work their way back to the 1 line when it's all said and done. And that's a team that has had arguably the toughest schedule in all of college basketball this season. They've lost 7 games, but they've won plenty of big games. I don't think we're talking enough about that Alabama Crimson Tide team. As good as Auburn has been, and rightfully so, Bama's right there. They hung with them. They beat them in their own building. They beat them in March. I think that was a big deal for Alabama to get that win. I still think Auburn's going to be okay. They haven't made too many mistakes this year. Broome's been fantastic, one of the best players in the country. As you mentioned, Bruce Pearl's got a good squad there. This was just a really good game that came down the wire. I don't necessarily think that means Bama's the better team, but they were the better team today.
Yeah, they certainly played better beginning to end in this game and end up getting the victory. Again, the final was 93-91 on the Sears-made shot. So Alabama gets the win in that SEC tournament. We keep saying this. It's just going to be amazing because you've got Florida at the top of it, Tennessee at the top of it, along with Alabama and Auburn. And then you've got a level that has Kentucky and Texas A&M, and Arkansas seems to have come to life now, and Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Vanderbilt and Missouri. It's going to be crazy in Nashville next week for championship week. So a little SEC talk there with the Alabama win. I want to segue to the game that just concluded a little while ago with Duke putting it on North Carolina. So it is a sweep for the Duke Blue Devils, a game that they were winning convincingly in the first half. Then Cooper Flagg, Tyler, I don't know how much you saw this, in foul trouble. Carolina makes the run to get the lead back, but then they play the second half, and Duke really played an outstanding second half. And you see on the screen, if you're with us here on the platforms of college basketball coast to coast, I put it up there as a topic. So Duke gets the sweep. Is that it for North Carolina now for the at-large hopes? They're now 1-11 in quad 1 games. For the last 2 weeks, everybody's talked they had to win this game. They didn't get it tonight. All right, what are your thoughts on the Duke win, and how bad did it damage Carolina, if not for good, as an at-large team?
Big win for Duke. Flagg, of course, got in that early foul trouble, had those 3 fouls in the first half, only had 5 points, and then they looked like a totally different team in the second half, the way that they stormed back and adjusted accordingly. I thought it was a very impressive win on the part of Duke to get the job done there, and that Duke team looks like they could win the whole thing when it's all said and done. I don't think anybody would be surprised about that. When it comes to Carolina, this was a game I don't feel like was necessarily a must-win game, but they needed to at least impress and build up some momentum for some optimism heading into next week. You lose this game by double digits at home. You let this game get away after having that winning streak you're on. I feel like you lose all that momentum that you had from just a few days ago heading into the ACC tournament here. Now, as weak as the ACC is, this isn't typically what we see in the ACC. I wouldn't be surprised if they still go on a run and find a way to win the ACC tournament next week. I think that's still within the realm of possibility, especially if somebody helps them out and potentially upsets Duke in the earlier rounds here. But that might be their only path at this point. And it's a real shame because the talent's there. You got guys like R.J. Davis and company on that squad, but Hubert Davis with another disappointing season with North Carolina, and I know that they just extended him recently, but I think the next couple days will be pretty telling. I still wouldn't rule out the possibility of him not returning next year if they don't make the tournament.